Hi, Connie. It's Barbara Quinn. I read your post this week about the health comparing healthcare in China to um, healthcare in the U.S. and I found it really interesting. And something that you wrote in there really triggered my thought. And I've seen it in some other posts too. And that is, some places, despite having universal healthcare, still has disparities. In my head, I've always felt like, well, all we need is universal health care, and then that will just fix everything. Well, the more I read and the more I research on it, the more I realize that having universal health care is a good first step, but it's certainly not going to solve all of our issues and especially disparities. I found two or three articles that I thought you might be interested in on that particular subject. One was an article by Bernio from Canada, and they did a study to see if there were, and of course, Canada has universal health care, and they did a study to see if there were disparities in patients who needed surgery for intractable epilepsy. And what they found was that only 2% of patients with lower economic or rural status receive the surgery. So definitely some uh, disparity, disparities existing there in Canada in that particular example. Then there was a study done in England, also a place with that's had universal health care, I read, since 1948. So you would think that they would have this dialed in. And the article by Asaria uh, was studying disparities there. And they knew that disparities existed, and they started a lot of work on it to try to improve that around 2003. They worked really hard to increase access by adding providers and improving the quality of care by putting programs, performance improvement in place. And then again, they compared after several years. I think it was 2011, 2012. And what they learned was that, yes, they had done a good job of increasing access and good quality, but they still found that there were outcome inequalities like preventable hospitalizations and preventable deaths. So there's more to this than just having universal health care. The third article that really struck me was one that was very relevant for our COVID-19 pandemic that we're in. It was an article done and just published a month or so ago called COVID-19 Pandemic Marked Global Disparities and Fatalities According to Geographic Location and Universal Health Care. But what they learned was that despite universal health care, although countries with universal health care had fewer cases, their mortality was actually higher. So 10.5% versus 4.9%. So it also informs us that universal health care by itself is not going to be the answer to all of our disparities, all of our complexities that we have in healthcare right now. So, anyway, thank you for your post. I really enjoyed reading about China. I didn't know much about that. So, anyway, thank you, Connie.